Marching ever forward, neath the wooded shrine, I stray not from the path, I hold its hand in mine. Primal night giveth sight, familiar by thy side. If sun be gone, we carry on, spirit as our guide. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down,
Agatha, all along, episode 9, season finale. I mean, I don't know, maybe there'll be a season 2, but who knows. But, follow me, my friends, because we've reached the end of Agatha. And it's your boy Icon with a Marvel television review for you. And again, this is the finale, episode 9, Maiden Mother Crone. And yeah, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share, hit the notification bell. Now, I'm just going to say this. Marvel, you know, they're known for their post-credit scenes and their end credit scenes. That's what they do. That's, you know, that's their thing. That's one of the things that they thrive at. I've said in episode 8 that episode 8 felt like the finale. Like, it felt like that should have been it, and it felt like it should have been over. This particular episode, episode 9, and 9 is a weird number of episodes to give a season, but episode 9 is basically the epilogue, but episode 9 is like the longest post-credit scene like in Marvel history. Like, if we're doing a post-credit scene for like Agatha, it's episode 9, and it tells a lot of story and it fills in a lot of gaps. It takes place a long time ago because Agatha, she's been around for a very long time. And it shows her running through the forest. She's already with Rio. Like, her and Rio have already been a thing. Her and Lady Death have already been established. But Agatha is running through the forest because she is with child. And she ends up giving, you know, she's on the verge of like giving birth to, you know, to a baby. And then Rio shows up. And then Agatha's like, no, what are you doing here? And then she's like, I've come for the child. And she's like, no. She's like, let me have this. Otherwise, you know, like, I'll hate you forever. Like, please, beloved, you know, like, give me what I desire or whatever. And then she's like, fine. She said, I can't allow this monstrosity to continue, but I can give you time. And then she disappeared and she was like, you know, you'll have your time. Now, the funny thing is, when she gave birth, because she was in the middle of going into labor, when she gave birth, she ends up like birthing the baby. She pushed the baby out on her own. And then she says, oh, no magic, no spells, no incantations. I've created you from scratch. And I'm like, so basically intercourse? Like, because they're trying to imply that she created the baby, like she magically made the baby. Because that's what also Rio was implying, because she was like, oh, you know, like this baby is a, you know, is a monster. It's like, you know, it's an aberration. And, you know, but for Rio to basically feel like I need to take the child because the child was created, you know, through magical means and the child wasn't here naturally, that conflicts with Agatha saying, no magic, no incantation, I created you from scratch. Basically, she did the deed with somebody and got knocked up. Like, that's where we're going. And I guess because Rio doesn't know that, Rio assumes that the child was like birthed from magic. Because again, even if Agatha did create the child with magic, why would she then say no magic spells, no incantations, I made you from scratch? Making it from scratch is basically meaning like she birthed the child like from within. So anyway, like Rio promised her time with the baby, so she has time with the baby. Now, Agatha, she's still Agatha, so in order for Agatha to have her power, to have her purple, and her son Nicholas actually named it the purple, that's where she got the name from. Agatha was using the baby to basically steal the power of witches because that's how she gets her power. So she was going through the forest with the baby was crying. She saw a coven of witches, and then, you know, they were just like, oh, dear lady. She was like, you know, why is your baby crying? And then she's like, we haven't eaten for days. And then she was like, come into the covenant and, you know, be with us, child. So then once they allow Agatha into their circle, she basically killed all of them and took their power. So this has been this went on for the next 6 years of Agatha using her son to lure witches in so Agatha can steal witches' power. That's their thing. That's what they do. We find out that her son Nicholas actually created the Witch's Road song because when both he and his mother were just walking through the forest, he came up with the song, you know, like down the winding road instead of the Witch's Road. So, and that was just like their thing. That was a thing that the two of them just sung together like all the time. But again, she was always using her son to lure in witches so she can then steal their power. So there was a moment where the boy was he was in a bar or whatever, a saloon, that's what they called it back then. He was in a saloon and he was singing the song. He was singing the ballad, you know, down, down, down the winding road. Like, but by that point, instead of saying down the winding road, because Agatha was basically using her son to lure witches in, Agatha changed the lyrics from down the winding road to down the witch's road. So with him being inside of a bar, inside of a saloon, singing down the witch's road, it got the attention of actual witches. And then this one witch in particular, she was like, dear boy, she's like, where did you hear this song from? Tell me all about it. She's like, my coven and I would love to hear about it. And then that's when he was supposed to set them up so Agatha could steal their power. But then Nicholas actually had a change of heart and he was just like, I'm sorry. He's like, I must go home to see my mother. And then he basically ran off. Agatha went after him. And because of that, once he left and Agatha ran after him, that same girl who was inquiring, that's how the rumor got started of a witch's road being like an actual thing. The witch's road was never real. Like, it was just something that Agatha created because she was using it to trick witches, you know, like so she could take their power. But then she goes down to Nicholas, she's talking to Nicholas, and he was just like, mother, he was like, can we kill witches tomorrow? He was like, but not today. Because the boy had got to the point where he got tired of killing witches. And he even asked her, he was like, instead of us killing witches, why can't we just befriend them and live with them in peace? And she was like, no, because they'll try to kill me. And it was never explained why she thought that. You know, it was never explained why she assumed that they would all just try to kill her. But anyway, so so instead they didn't kill anybody. And because they didn't kill that particular coven of witches, that's how the Witch's Road rumor got spreaded. And then at night, you know, the two of them were sleeping in the forest. And while Agatha and Nicholas were sleeping in the forest, Rio came in the middle of the night, picked up Nicholas, and then took him to the great beyond. And again, it's still unclear whether that boy was taken because she was jealous that Agatha had relations with someone else, or if he actually was created through like mystical beings, and because of that, he wasn't allowed to be there. Agatha woke up the next day, saw that he was gone, knew Rio had taken him, and then she screamed out crying. She actually had a funeral for the child. The child was buried somewhere, and while the child was buried, she started singing the Witch's Road song. This witch girl showed up, and then she was like, oh, you're singing the Witch's Road song. And then she said that I actually was looking for the road because she was like, there's something that I really want from the road. And she said, you know the ballad. She's like, you can get me to the road. And then that's when Agatha got a new idea. So instead of using her son to reel in witches' powers, she basically came up with this thing where she was telling witches that she can get them on the witch's road so they can obtain the great power, glory at the end. And it was basically just a lie to get witches in the coven so she can then take their power. That's how it started. So the Witch's Road is a sham. The whole thing is a sham. The whole point of the song, because her whole thing was she puts them in the circle, they start singing the ballad, and then when the door doesn't open, she's like, oh, you witches suck, like you're no good, you're losers. They get mad, blast her with their power, and she absorbs their power and sucks them dry, and she kills them. She did this for decades upon decades upon decades upon decades, until we got to the point where she did it to the current group of witches. And then when the door, and then when she got to the point where she was just like, oh, there's no door because you guys suck, like your has-beens, your never wases, and you guys don't have power, like you're pathetic. But then but this group was smart, because when she started taunting them and she started like disrespecting them and making fun of them, they were gonna blast her. But I think it was it was either Jen or Lilith. They were like, no, don't blast her because that's what she wants so she can take our power. And I was like, finally, someone's like there's some brains like in this outfit. So that particular group was smart enough to not fall for the okie doke. But then at that moment, because the Sinister Seven was coming, Billy through his emotions created the door, and then when he created the door, Agatha looked, she was like, oh shit. She's like, there's actually a door, you know. And then they went down into the Witch's Road, but she knew the entire time that the whole thing was a sham. And then that takes us back to present day, where Billy's in his room realizing that he just created the Witch's Road, like it was all his idea. and the person that said boo was Agatha. And then when Agatha appeared to Billy, she was a ghost, because remember, she sacrificed herself in the last episode as she did the kiss of death. So when she did the kiss of death, she started, they said she had white hair and everything. She had like a nice purple dress on. And she wasn't, they said that she wasn't in the afterlife. She was basically just like still on the spirit plane walking around. And then that's when Billy was asking the questions. He was just like, yo, did I create the road? And then she said, yes. And unlike your mother, you actually used your power for something good, like for something that made sense. And then he was like, but if the witch's road was my creation, and if it was something that I came up with, he was like, that means I'm a murderer, because he said, I killed Sharon. And then she was like, who? And then she was like, Sharon, like the gardener, like she wasn't supposed to be there. And then he was like, like I killed Alex. And then then that's when Agatha, she was like, no, I actually killed Alex because she stole Alex's power and sucked her dry. And then she was just like, oh, I killed Lilith. And she was like, no, Lilith actually made that choice on her own. And he said, are they ghosts like you? And then Agatha just like shook her head. But I'm just like, but again, we saw Alex go into the afterlife. We never saw Sharon, and we never saw Lilith. So I'm like, that whole thing is still up in the air. And then Billy felt bad because he was like, like I got them killed. he was like, I'm a bad person. And then Agatha, she was trying to talk him down, and she was like, don't apologize for your power, and like it is what it is, and blah blah blah. But then he got mad. He went back to the witch's road. He went back to Agatha's house in the basement where the witch's road door was. And then he started using an incantation. Now, Agatha's whole thing was the necklace that had her son's hair in it. I guess she dropped it when she did the kiss of death, and Billy picked it up, and Billy had like that emblem. She wanted it back, and she was just like, yo, just give me my personal item. He used that personal item to try to come up with a spell to banish her to the afterlife. And then she was just like, and then she was like, what are you doing? He was like, I'm getting rid of you once and for all. And then she said, weren't you complaining 2 seconds ago about how bad you felt about killing witches? He said, yeah, but you're already dead. So that's when Agatha got mad. And then she was like, no, you're not going to kill me. Because she just wanted the item back, like her son's item back. She was like, give me the item, give me the item. And then she found a way, although she's a ghost, she found a way to make her body solid for 2 seconds. So she knocked the item out of his hand, and then she picked it up and pinned it onto her dress. Billy then felt bad, and then he was just like, oh, like you found a way to, get the item back and to clip it on. And then she was like, yeah, I'm a fast study. And then the two of them, kind of like felt bad, and then like towards each other. Agatha was like, hey, she said, the spirit is your guide. She's like, you and I can be a good team. And then she said, although I have a habit of like killing my coven. And then he said, apparently so do I, because I killed like I killed them too. And then they were just like, well, we can team up, we can come together. And then they was like, when one door closes, another door opens. And then when he said that, another door opened. And then the two of them were standing there looking at the door. And Agatha knew what that door meant. And then she said, come on, let's you and I together go through that door and find Tommy. They looked at each other. Both of them walked through the door. And then that was how the episode ended. So unless season 2 was about Ghost Agatha and Billy looking for Tommy, this was how the series of Agatha all along ended. This is, we got the conclusion to everything. The season is officially over. And thank you for tuning in. So it was very interesting. Like I said, this was like the longest like post-credit scene of all time. But I did like it because I like how it told the story. Like, one thing I do wish, when they were going through the montage of her stealing witches' powers decade after decade after decade, I wish they would have gone back to the moment where her mother tried to kill her and, like, strung her up on the stake, and then she ended up stealing all their power at the last. Like, I wish we would have went back to that and visited that one more time, but, say la vie. But anyway, and even at the end, like, the door to the witch's road, Billy ended up putting like Sharon, Alex, and Lilith's name on the door. I mean, they should have put Agatha's name on the door. That was nice. I mean, it would have been nice to actually see the three of them, but they said that they weren't ghosts. Yeah, Agatha's the only ghost now. But when Billy was going through his emotional trauma of killing everybody, she was like, well, you did save one life. And then they showed Jen, coming out of the dirt in Westfield and then like flying away because, I mean, again, Lilith said, Jen, you're the way forward. and I guess that meant you're the only one that's gonna make it. You're the one that's gonna survive. We got no. I mean, it would have been nice to know what happened to Jen. Like after she got away. But who knows? As I said, maybe they'll get a season 2. I don't know if they'll get a season 2, but if they do, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I wasn't really high when I first heard that she was getting a show. But then when I watched it and I saw The Witch's Road, I said, well, this seems like it'll be interesting. I still feel like they did Alex, Lilith, and Sharon dirty, but I did overall enjoy the show, and I would review a season 2 if they do a season 2, The Search for Tommy. So share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. Let me know what you thought about Agatha all along, of like the Ballad of the Witches, The Witch's Road, how we conclude the Agatha character, where it all ties in, where Billy ends, Tommy begins, and everything in between. Check out my other reviews because I got Superman and Lois up on my channel. I got The Penguin up on my channel. I got the season finale of Tomb Raider up on my channel, which is getting a season 2. And I said we're rolling on because Creature Commandos comes out in December 5th, and I believe at the end of November we're getting Cobra Kai, and we're gonna do those episodes of Cobra Kai. I got the first 5 Cobra Kai final season up on my channel, so check out the rest of it. So that was it, guys. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in, for taking the journey with me down the review road for The Witches and everything. Signing off for some more Marvel goodness. We look forward to more Marvel projects going forward. And until then, follow me, my friends, to glory.